Thank you very much. I'll ask Cancora. Minister, as you're well aware, the cost of insurance is a huge burden on customers, be it businesses, charities, sports clubs and many, many more. People continue to face insurance premiums that are far in excess of what is justified or fair. According to the Central Statistics Office, the last figures that I saw, while premiums have reduced in 2017, they have increased considerably, more than 30% since 2012. I think it's very important that the recommendations of the independent working group that they are implemented as soon as possible. Some have been acted upon, but many of the key recommendations have not been legislated for or the relevant regulations provided for. So, Minister, I would hope that you would be able to indicate to us that additional measures would be implemented as soon as possible.
And I was listening to what you said there, and I'll just give you a brief answer back in relation to it. I want to say that, of course, I'm aware of the strain that you're referring to, and indeed the problem of raising premia in respect of motor insurance particularly was the main impetus for the establishment of the Cost of Insurance Working Group that Minister Darcy chairs. The working group is continuing to implement the recommendations of the 2017 report on the cost of motor insurance and the 2018 report on the cost of employer and public liability insurance. Both of these reports contain action plans. The 7th update was published last November and shows that a total number of, that out of the 78 different deadlines, that 63 of them relate to actions which have now been completed. It is envisaged that the next quarterly progress update will be completed by the end of this month and will concentrate in particular on outlining the definitive position in relation to all of the recommendations from the motor report, as the last of the deadlines within its action plan passed at the end of 2018. In respect of the other report, the vast majority of the total of 26 actions which were due for completion have now been accomplished, and I remain confident that any outstanding action points will be completed within the coming months, along with the 3 remaining action points with deadlines set for various quarters throughout 2019.
Minister, my understanding is that 2 of the key recommendations of the report was to be the establishment of a national claims database, and indeed the legislation to establish that database was to be enacted more than 12 months ago. So I'd like to know the up-to-date in relation to that particular recommendation. And one other recommendation that has been brought to the attention of all of us, particularly by those advocacy and representative organisations who are concerned about the costs of insurance, be it for motorists, be it for businesses, be it for householders, and indeed sporting clubs and voluntary organisations as well, is the need to have a Garda Insurance Fraud Unit established. I understand, and many people have put across very strong messages to us, well-based proposals and arguments, that would be the single most effective deterrent to fraudulent claims. Now, there's no sign of that single Garda unit being established, and that's more than 2 years after the whole discussion commenced in relation to the possible effectiveness of such a unit. Thank you, Joan Burton.
Wanted to come in, I think, on this, Minister. Sorry.
I ask the Minister if he's aware of the extreme distress and financial uncertainty being caused to a very wide variety of businesses and ventures, particularly those involving any kind of personal activity, whether of adults or children, to the point where literally they are being destroyed. I am certainly inundated with people who are saying they're looking at this coming year as potentially their last period in business. When you add, this seems to be being managed, Minister, if I may say so, with about the same degree of competence as the Children's Hospital, so that we now have a further level of uncertainty with Brexit coming down the road, where it is widely expected that there will be additional charges put once people are moving between an EU jurisdiction and whatever status Northern Ireland is going to emerge with from the Brexit. Minister, you know, the working group is working away. It's not addressing what is literally going to close down huge numbers of businesses, particularly in rural locations.
In relation to the 3 questions that have been put to me, Deputy Smith, you asked a question about where do we stand with the National Claims Information Database. That piece of legislation and the work in relation to that was enacted there last December, and now is work underway now in relation to getting that up and running, but the legal and legislative work in relation to that has now been done. In relation to your second question, in relation to the dedicated Garda fraud unit, Minister Darcy met Commissioner Drew Harris at the end of last year, and the Commissioner is now considering how they respond back to the report and a particular recommendation of it within the recommendation of an investigative capacity, a specific capacity for this area within An Garda Síochána. In relation to Deputy Burton's question to me about our competence in the area, I've already, of course, I'm aware of the issue that this poses, particularly for smaller businesses and for consumers. I did outline earlier on that the majority of action steps that we have committed to, we have honoured. More than 71 recommended actions have now happened. And while I'm not in a position to give to you information in relation to insurance policies that small and medium-sized companies would have, for example, in relation to motor insurance, we have now seen a reduction of 22.1% from the peak of those premia in July of 2016. And that's not information that I'm supplying to you, that's information that has come out of the CSO from last December.
Question